welcome. I am unapologetically Eric. You can reach me on X at Eric Not Sorry or on Facebook at Unapologetically Eric. If you like this episode, please give it a like, share, tell your friends, and check out my other episodes. Do not keep me your dirty little secret. I hope you enjoy. Now let's get on with the show. How's everybody doing today? I hope you're doing well. As for me, per usual, I am caffeinated, medicated, but never regulated, so let's effing go. Today, bear with me, I'm going to be bouncing around a little bit because I'm going to start off with one story and I'm going to roll it into another. So, the other day, I was listening to my buddy Reese on the radio here in Connecticut. At least he's on the air here in Connecticut on WTLC 1080 AM radio from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. But seriously, give Reese a follow. Give him a listen. He's a good dude. He's a straight up dude, stand up dude. Love the guy. Anyways, so him and his listeners, they would call in. They were discussing a topic in Connecticut regarding homeschooling. Because homeschoolers and people that are advocating for homeschooling feel that they're under attack by state officials. Well, let me backtrack a little bit, okay? Especially if you are a listener. If you're a first-time listener, first off, thank you. But if you are a listener and you don't follow maybe, I don't know if the story made national news. I'm assuming it did. But I'm going to start off with a story out of Waterbury. It's a little bit of a foreshadow of what I really want to get into. So, earlier this year in 2025, there is a story that broke in the town or city of Waterbury. There was a man who deliberately set fire to the room he was in his home. Actually, it wasn't his home. It was his hell. He set fire on purpose in order to escape because this man was held captive for over 20 years. That's right, folks, 20 years in his home by his stepmother. He is only 32 years old. When he was found, he weighed 68 pounds. I don't know how tall this man is, but 68 pounds, that is pretty, yeah. This man was tortured, clearly. 68 pounds, emaciated, he had rotten teeth, matted hair, and I even read reports that he was eating trash. Yeah, this poor man. But if you do the math, he is 32 years old. He was held captive for over 20 years. So that means he has not been in school, and since he was what, 12, 13, somewhere around there, he, air quotes, fell through the cracks. I hate when I hear that, and unfortunately, that is a phrase I have been hearing more and more often in the educational system, especially here in Connecticut, about students that just fell through the cracks. Well, I do understand that unfortunately does happen. I get it, and that sucks. But this individual was held captive for over 20 years. That should not have gone unnoticed. I also read that DCF did not take action despite over 20 alerts regarding this individual. I also read that Waterbury police made 2 stops off for welfare checks there, one in 2004 and one in 2005. However, they found no evidence of any shenanigans. I'm not blaming the Waterbury Police Department. I'm not calling anybody out. Look, I don't know what they saw. I don't know what it looked like back then. But that, again, was 20 years ago. Obviously, a lot of bad shit happened over that time frame to this poor individual. Also, there have been allegations of possible, maybe, cover-ups of abuse in other situations. So I did a quick search on Grok. It's an AI search engine. If you haven't used it, it's cool, it's fun. I like to go there because that's what I use. Now, I understand it's AI. Hey, I'm not a journo. I'm just an asshole with a microphone. Do your own research if you don't believe me. So I did a quick search regarding homeschooling and homeschooled students and some numbers here in Connecticut. So this is what I found. Because I specifically went to Grok and I wrote, this is my question, how many homeschooled children in Connecticut have fallen through the cracks according to DCF? Now, this was Grok's answer, and I will read it as it's written. There's no exact number for the Connecticut Department of Children and Families, DCF, or recent reports that precisely quantifies how many homeschooled children have fallen through the cracks in the sense of being neglected, abused, or otherwise unaccounted for. However, in 2018, from the Connecticut Office of the Child Advocate, the OCA, provides some relevant data. It found that in 6 school districts from 2013 to 2016, 36% of the 380 students withdrawn to be homeschooled, roughly 137 children, lived in families with at least one prior accepted report of abuse or neglect to DCF. Of these families, 88%, about 120 children, were in families with multiple reports or a single substantiated report. This suggests a significant overlap between homeschooling and families with a history of DCF involvement, pointing to potential risks for some children. Interesting. Let's see here. The OCA report doesn't explicitly state these children fell through the cracks, but it highlights a lack of oversight, noting that none of the districts had protocols to follow up on these students' education or well-being. A 2025 Hartford Courant article also references a case in Waterbury where a child allegedly withdrawn from school for homeschooling was abused for years without DCF intervention despite 21 alerts. This case underscores gaps in monitoring but does not provide a statewide count. Interesting. Without comprehensive tracking or mandatory oversight, it's impossible to pin down a precise number. Connecticut is among 11 states with no homeschooling regulations. Again, interesting. I love the idea of homeschooling. I have had a bone to pick with public schools ever since I was a child. I'm not a fan of the education system. I don't like it. I've never liked it. I've always rebelled against it. That's just who I am. But I wouldn't sit here and point a finger at homeschooling as a whole being bad, because from what I've read, when I read you, it kind of tells me that there are some pieces of garbage parents out there that don't want their kid going to public school because Junior may say something about what's going on at home. Evidence may be seen on Junior about some shenanigans going on at home. So, parent just yanks kid out of school, and Connecticut just says, okay, and doesn't follow up, and doesn't do anything, because there is no regulations. Okay, well, again, interesting. I have no problem if somebody wants to homeschool their kid. Hell yeah, man. More power to you. Don't send them to those indoctrination centers. Okay? I got friends that are teachers. I'm sorry. They know how I feel. They do. They don't necessarily agree with me. hey, everybody's cool to have their own opinion, man. That's all right. I love the idea of homeschooling. I don't like public schools. But why suddenly this finger pointing at homeschooling? Um, I just read that DCF dropped the ball almost 24 times just on this one kid. How many other kids are there? Over 100? And that was just from 2013 to 2016. That's okay. All right. All right. Well, I did some more search. So, let me read what else I found. Because, as I said, some people in Connecticut are kind of pointing their fingers at stuff. So I did a search, and I just said, what Connecticut official stated we need stricter regulations on homeschooling in Connecticut? And this is what Grok told me. Sarah Egan, the child advocate for the state of Connecticut, has publicly called for stricter regulations on homeschooling in response to a 2025 case in Waterbury involving severe abuse of a child allegedly withdrawn from school for homeschooling. Egan emphasized the need for oversight to ensure child safety and education. She noted Connecticut's lack of a clear regulatory framework for verifying homeschooling after a child is withdrawn from public school, stating, "There is no will meet again, will verify once a child is disenrolled." Interesting. Very interesting. I do have a quick question, though. Miss Egan is concerned about the safety, well-being, and education of children. Okay. I am right there beside her. Absolutely. I agree. However, there were recent allegations of abuse within Hartford public schools. Where did that go? Any investigation? Hello? I know I talked about it. Reese on the radio talked about it. I think Mark from West Hartford talked about it. What was that? A nothing burger? Nothing happened? Oh, also, curious, even more curious, there was a woman who graduated Hartford Public Schools in 2024 with honors and is currently going to school at UConn who can't read. Yeah, that's right, folks. She's illiterate. But yet she graduated Hartford Public Schools with honors. How? So, Ms. Egan, how is that possible? Is she just another one that fell through the cracks? Because I'm sure that young lady is not alone. I also found that in a 2025 CT Mirror article, they noted only 64% of Connecticut students were reading at grade level in 2022, down from 70% in 2019, suggesting 36% are below grade level. However, below grade level does not equate to functional illiteracy, which is more severe. However, they're not reading at grade level. I did a previous episode on education and pushing kids on and so on and so forth. I have friends that are teachers, educators, or within that world, and yes, they will get students, and when they're doing their whole education plan, or whatever they're doing, they do for the year for each student, more and more students come to them, and they're like, you're not ready for this class yet. You're not at this level yet, but you can't be held back. I can't send you back. And hopefully by the time that student gets through that school year, that teacher is like, well, I basically taught you to get to last grade. Now I got to push you on to the next one, and you essentially haven't completed this grade. Because no child left behind. Just push them on. Just push them on. So they may not be illiterate, but they're not reading at grade level. That's a problem, folks, especially when every time you turn around, you hear these education people talk about send more money, we need more money, we need more money. Why? For what? The kids are getting dumber. And I don't blame them. I don't blame the students. I blame the system. I really blame the system. But this is a problem, and it's only getting worse. But yeah, we got to point the finger at homeschooling. Really? Really? Public school is doing not much better. Sit down, clown. Sit down. A 2018 CT Mirror report highlighted that 17% of Connecticut's 2012 high school graduates needed non-credit remedial courses in reading, writing, or math at community colleges because they did not meet necessary literacy requirements. This is a problem. In fact, recently I saw a report that Harvard, yes, Harvard, is also offering remedial classes for freshmen because they can't read. They're not proficient in reading, writing, and arithmetic. Yeah, but we need to point fingers and blame homeschooling. Right. Now, I want to backtrack for a quick sec. I want to point a finger and kind of get on DCF a little bit. Now, look, I understand that DCF has a difficult job, and I know I have ragged on DCF in the past, and I will definitely do it again in the future. But I'm not going to give DCF a pass, but I will say that I know DCF as a whole is highly understaffed. They are underfunded. The caseworkers have so many cases, they can't keep up. Because let's face it, humans are garbage. And unfortunately, garbage humans have children, and they treat their children like garbage, which is extremely sad and just terrible. But these DCF caseworkers, they are overworked, underpaid, and understaffed. Not making an excuse, I'm just stating facts. So the fact that somebody like this individual in Waterbury or others fall through the cracks, I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked. Also with these DCF caseworkers, it's not black and white where these people go. When they go into someone's home, it's not always a baby mama drama, call in and, or issue, and they walk in the house and it's just an erroneous complaint because somebody's just trying to make dad or mom's life a pain. Yeah, that happens. But there are times when these people go into homes and the things they see, the things that they smell, there's no doubt in my mind that DCF workers have PTSD. I know I would. I can't imagine. I mean, I have heard the stories. You don't want to know. And if you do know, you don't want to know. The horrible things that some of these people see and witness and have to be a child advocate because somebody is, just a pile of garbage to their kid. However, to point a finger at homeschooling as a whole because of the shortcomings of the DCF or even law enforcement or other school officials or anybody else involved in the education system, to me, it's bullshit. And it's wrong. It is. It's just bullshit. It kind of reminds me of when, some schmuck takes a firearm and goes and does, horrible, already illegal activities with said firearm. And then officials want to crack down on law-abiding firearm owners. It's like, what the hell did we have to do with this? So, okay, a child falls through the cracks because of whatever, underfunding, understaffing, whatever the excuse, whatever the reason, and instead of fixing that or talking about it or shoring it up, no, we're going to point and look at homeschoolers and blame them. Dude, deflection, much? Really? However, I did want to look into homeschooling here in Connecticut because, as I stated, it said no regulation. I'm like, really? There's got to be something. So, Grok, I typed in, hey, what about homeschooling in Connecticut? Like, okay, you're saying there's no regulations. All right, well, what is it? So, this is what we found. The question I wrote in was, what are the regulations for homeschooling in Connecticut? I found this rather interesting. I learned a lot, and I'm hoping you learned something too. So, Connecticut has minimal regulations for homeschooling, being one of 11 states with no formal oversight or mandatory reporting requirements. The key guidelines and regulations as outlined by the Connecticut State Department of Education and advocacy groups like TeachCT and the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, HSLDA, are as follows. 1. Notice of intent. Non-mandatory. Parents are not required to notify the state or local school districts of their intent to homeschool. However, the Connecticut State Department of Education recommends filing a voluntary notice of intent with the local superintendent to avoid truancy investigations. The notice of intent, if filed, is a one-time submission and does not need annual renewal. It should confirm that the parent or guardian is providing instruction. Interesting. So you can homeschool your kid in Connecticut. All right, cool. You can take your kid out and homeschool them. All right, cool. But you could, but you don't have to, fill out this notice of intent. And there is no follow-up. Interesting. Number 2, instructional requirements. Connecticut law, General Statute 10-184, requires parents to provide equivalent instruction to that offered in public schools for children ages 5 to 16, compulsory school age. The instruction must cover reading, writing, spelling, English grammar, geography, arithmetic, U.S. history, and citizenship, including voting knowledge. Science and other subjects are not explicitly required, but are recommended to align with public school standards. There is no minimum number of instructional days or hours required. 3. Portfolio review. Optional. If a notice of intent is filed, the local school district may request an annual portfolio review to assess the child's progress. This review is not mandatory, and parents can decline without penalty. The portfolio may include samples such as the child's work, assignments, tests, project to demonstrate equivalent instruction. Interesting. Not mandatory to make sure that a homeschooled student is on par with public school educated children. Very interesting. 4. No testing or assessment required. Connecticut does not require standardized testing or assessments for homeschooled students at any point during their education. Parents are not obligated to submit test scores or other proof of academic achievement. Interesting. Really? The state of Connecticut, they love to regulate everything. Like everything. But they don't have anything regarding homeschooling? Interesting. Now look, I'm one of those people that does not like government getting involved in like anything. But I'm finding this very interesting that a state like Connecticut that loves to choke the life and fun out of everything doesn't have their hands wrapped around the throat of homeschooling. I am quite shocked. Number 5, teacher qualifications. No specific qualifications or certifications are required for parents or instructors providing homeschool education. Anyone designed or designated by the parent can provide instruction. 6, record keeping. Parents are not required to maintain or submit records of attendance, curriculum, or student progress to the state or local authorities. Keeping records, example, curriculum, plans, work samples, is recommended in case of truancy inquiries or future re-enrollment in public school. So, what? What? Wow, okay, let's keep going. 7, special education. Homeschooled students are not entitled to special education services through public schools unless they are duly enrolled part-time public school attendants. Parents must privately fund any special education needs. Number 8, withdrawal from public school. To homeschool a child previously enrolled in public school, parents must formally withdraw the child by notifying the school in writing. Filing the notice of intent is recommended to clarify the child's status. No approval from the school district is needed to begin homeschooling. Number 9. Almost there, folks. Almost there. 2 more. Extracurricular activity or access. Connecticut law does not guarantee homeschooled students access to public school extracurricular activities, sports, or classes. Access depends on local school district policies, which vary widely. Number 10, high school diploma. Connecticut does not issue state-recognized high school diplomas to homeschooled students. Parents can create their own diploma or pursue a GED if needed. Homeschooled students can apply to colleges or jobs using parent-generated transcripts, which are generally accepted. Wow. I knew none of that. I knew nothing about that. But this also brings me back to why are we pointing a hard finger at homeschooling when children fall through the cracks like this individual in Waterbury and others? Why? Why that? Where's DCF? Like, if there's reports of abuse, what does that have to do with homeschooling? If a student was pulled out of school and then there's reports of abuse in the home, again, where's DCF? That's their job, right? And local law enforcement, maybe state law enforcement, What's that have to do with homeschooling? If someone fears that there is a piece of crap parent that's up to no good and shenanigans and they pull their kid out of school, again, as I stated before, so Junior doesn't say anything or evidence of abuse doesn't get noticed, okay, nobody's checking in. There isn't a regulation for that. There's no law at all for that. Again, I find that perplexing here in Connecticut. The state that loves to choke the life out of everything doesn't have a regulation for that. Interesting. So, I hate the word regulation. For homeschooling in Connecticut, my opinion, again, I'm just an a-hole with a microphone. Okay, I'm not an educator. I'm not a journalist. I'm just a schmuck with a mic. But in my humble opinion, I don't think there should be regulations on homeschooling. However, there should kind of be a standard. Like, a standard. How do you prove the kid knows how to read and write? Oh, wait. We're letting them graduate high school in Connecticut without knowing how to read and write proficiently in public schools. So what's the big deal with homeschoolers doing that? That shouldn't be a problem, right? Because they're on par, right? Okay. Sorry, not sorry. I do feel personally that, yes, if you want to homeschool your kid, by all means you should. You shouldn't get any crap for it. Yeah, but yet I also think there should be some sort of standards and proof. Like you should have to, by, age whatever, your child should be able to read at this level or be able to do multiplication or division or what have you. There should be some kind of standard. I remember capped testing. Is that still a thing? I'll have to ask my friends. I'll have to ask my teacher friends because I don't know. I remember taking all sorts of stupid testing and bullshit. Fill in the bubble with your number 2 pencil. Well, that doesn't exist for homeschoolers? There isn't some kind of standardized test all across the board? Really? I'm baffled by that, man. Really, I'm sitting there, I'm reading this stuff before I turn on the microphone, and I'm like, really? I am honestly shocked at this. Wow. But yeah, let's keep pointing the finger at homeschoolers. Yeah, because they're the problem. Some? Sure, absolutely, sure. Okay, I'll give you that. But it's not like the public schools, at least in the inner cities, are much better. Come on. Do better, people. Do better. We're trying to educate our future builders and creators of America, of our communities. And we're only doing all of them, whether they're in public school or homeschooled. We're doing them a giant disservice if they don't know how to read, write, and do math, at the very least. I don't expect anybody to understand calculus. Fuck calculus. But they can't do, what's 34 plus 9 without a calculator? That's sad. But I'm shocked that Connecticut does not have any standards for homeschool. That is bonkers, dude. That blows my mind. So as much as I don't like government getting their gooey, greasy, grimy, sticky fingers into everything, there should at least be some sort of standard for homeschooling. Do you homeschool your kids, whether in Connecticut or elsewhere? Do you have guidelines? If so, what are they? Let me know. Send me a DM, post it on X or Facebook or whatever. Let me know. I'm curious. That baffles me. But for any advocate, official, anybody at the government level in the state of Connecticut to point the finger at homeschooling as the problem for why certain students, air quotes, fall through the cracks is bullshit. It's a dog whistle. It's a distraction. It's a look over here at this shiny object. That's exactly what it is. As I said, there should be some standards for homeschooling. Absolutely. Now, I don't like the word regulation. Standards. Give me a level. Little Johnny's got to be able to know how, 5 times 5 by what age? Okay. There should be kind of some testing standards. Okay, fair enough. But don't deflect from the failures, the abject failures of DCF and the Connecticut Department of Education. Don't deflect it and point the focus on homeschooling. That is just so grossly wrong. It's just gross. Admit y'all screwed up. Admit it. Own it. Me personally, I can't speak for everyone, but I will respect you if you own it and just say, "Yup, we fucked up. Our bad." Okay, own it. I will respect you. Period. I may not like you. I may not forgive you, but I will at least respect you. I respect somebody when they own up to their faults. Don't deflect. This person in Waterbury and the young lady that graduated Hartford Public Schools with honors and is in college, who was illiterate. That's not the fault of homeschooling. It is the entire system. That's at fault. It's the entire system. Everybody failed these people. Don't deflect. Own it. And then let's move forward. What happened? You get to the root cause. All right? You do an audit, like a legit audit. Where is the root cause? Is it regulation? Was it a person? Was it a department? Was it a policy? I don't know. I'm asking. That's why you do an audit. That's why you do an investigation. Audits aren't a bad thing. Maybe if the IRS is on you, but audits in general are not designed to just crack down. An audit is a check on a system. And if there is a hiccup, okay, maybe it's the system, maybe it's the data. That's why you do an audit. That's why you do investigations. So I'm curious on what they're going to find out within this. But I do have a little when a government agency has a blunder and then an investigation ensues by same government agency, I have a problem with that. Or even in a government agency, adjacent to. I don't like that. That's kind of like, if somebody is, investigating themselves. I mean, that's, yeah, there's no room for shenanigans there. Nah, no possible shenanigans. No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, when one government agency literally is hand in glove with the other agency and they're like, we're going to investigate them. Yeah, you are. Sure. Okay, pal. All right. Get out of here, clown. But yeah, I thought this was rather interesting. There's literally like no standards for homeschooling in Connecticut. And then you got the professional educators pointing fingers. Get out of here. What is going on in Connecticut? What is going on in our education system here? Does nobody give a damn about the kids? Really? Does nobody care? Is everybody only concerned about their damn paycheck and keeping their job? Is that their number one concern? Because in my opinion, yeah, that's really the concern for a lot of these people. Especially the higher up you go in that food chain, the more political you get into it, like superintendents and shit. They just don't want blowback on them so they can move forward in their career. That's sad. It should always be about the kids, man. It's about their education and their safety. And clearly, from what I see, there's not many people out there actually advocating for them. People that say they do, but really? You can say you are, but if you're deflecting, no, you're not advocating. No, you're being an activist. Stop that. Stop pretending. Don't be a fake. Stop being plastic. Stop being plastic. I don't know what's going on with Connecticut. What's going on here? Honestly, I don't know. But I know the school systems are so beyond fucked. And the fact that there's the law, No Child Left Behind, that law screwed everybody's kids. That screwed us all. It did. It's garbage policy. It's all garbage. It needs to just be shredded and started over, man. Start over. Because it ain't working. It's broken. It's broken. It's broken. The whole system's fucking broken. It's so sad, man. Really. If you have kids, more power to you. More power to you. I don't know how y'all do it. I don't. I hope the best for your kids. I really do, because they're not getting the best here. They certainly are not. Thank you for listening to my depressing episode. And if you have any more information regarding homeschooling or anything like that, and if you would like to chime in, please let me know. Follow me on the socials. And until next time, keep being you.